you for braving the rain. It's our third day of Smart Cities NYC. I'm Eric Verkerke. I'm the co-founder and chief creative officer at Emergence. Need a little more coffee, sorry. This is the third day and final day of programming for Smart Cities. We've got a big day tomorrow as well, so we hope you'll all stick around. We've got a STEAM event where we'll be having kids come onto the yard, be able to see the floor. We've got a big job fair with various different employers from around the local community and the city. And we'll have some really interesting talks tomorrow as well from Miguel Gamino, the CTO. But today on Dougal 2, this is the stage here. We've got talks, panels ranging from smart cities in India, the commitment that India has made to smart cities and transforming the cities there, to financing, new models of financing for smart cities. So we hope you'll stick around. If you haven't had a chance, please download the app. Take the time to connect with people, check out the various different workshops that are running today. From a logistics perspective, we'll have buses and shuttle cars running to keep you dry, to get you over to Building 92 or 1776. So I hope you have a great day and enjoy.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Anand Shah, Vice President, Albright Stonebridge Group.
I have to thank them for such an baseball park style entry. Thank you all for coming. I hope you can move a little bit closer. We can have a little bit more of an intimate conversation. I wanted to start with a quick anecdote before bringing in the panelists. 10 years ago, if you were in India, there weren't a whole lot of people talking about cities. Now, there was a lot of talk about how India lives in its villages. There was a lot of talk about the need to bring urban amenities to villages, and there's been a marked shift over the course of the last decade, which makes India and the smart cities that we're going to be talking about a proxy for what's happening elsewhere in the world. And so the most important piece is that there's a recognition that people are moving into cities at a rapid pace, and cities need and have the ability to be different today than perhaps when they were developed decades ago elsewhere around the world. So the panelists that we have, I think, are going to give us a prism through which we can look at India, what's happening in India around cities and smart cities, and exactly what kinds of partnership opportunities, how international players are also playing a role. So I'd like to bring in Vinay Singh, who is the Deputy Assistant Secretary of Commerce in the Obama administration, played a very significant role in developing the smart cities partnerships between the US and India. Also bring in Narayanan, who is the Commissioner of Vizag, Vishakhapatnam, Greater Vishakhapatnam, on the eastern shores of India. One thing that should be noted is, as a commissioner, it is one of the most powerful positions in India in the ability to get stuff done. And for a city of 2 million people, Vizag is leading the charge on smart cities today. And Ebong, who is the acting director of the U.S. Trade and Development Agency, who is continuing to carry on the mantle of working with smart cities, not just in India, but elsewhere around the world. And they've partnered with 3 cities in India. So the way that we're going to do this, I'm going to ask each panelist to make a few sort of remarks on their perspective on smart cities, the India opportunity, and beyond India as well from their perspective. And then I'll put in a few questions, and then hopefully if we've got some time, we'll ask for the crowd as well. Thank you. Vinay, you first?
Sure. So in 1981, 40% of the world was living on $1 a day, and today that's 15%. So that equates to about 700 million people. And I'll get back to why that's important, but obviously cities are trade hubs for moving people, ideas, and goods, but essentially they're a path to prosperity. So talking about the 700 million people, getting to the rapid urbanization that's happening primarily in Asia and Africa, I think that's significant because cities, as I see it, smarter cities, it's all about quality of life, improving the quality of life. In my former role, We really worked hard in the Obama administration to converge a lot of our agencies, and the USTDA has definitely taken the mantle. At Commerce, we still have Hovan and a few of our team doing some work. But with India, it was really important to bring a consortium not just of government, but of the private sector. So that was really our mandate within the administration, and I continue to see that collaboration. I think that's the key, is the collaborative ecosystem, and we'll talk about that more today. So glad to be here. Good morning, and thanks.
Hurry.
Good morning, everybody. So I think the session today is particularly focused on India's smart cities mission. So in the year 2014, a new government came in place under the leadership of the Prime Minister Narendra Modi. And there has been a design to improve urbanization and the way urbanization is moving forward in the country. And so, keeping in mind that the future of India lies in the urban India and urbanization, the government of India decided that 100 cities in the country would be developed as smart cities. These 100 cities are primarily cities that would be the so-called lighthouse cities that guide future urbanization in India. So it is with that direction that today India, being a country where less than 40% of the country is urbanized, and a decade or 2 decades down the line, we look at 60-70% of the country being urbanized. So with that at the hindsight is what this smart cities mission has been designed. And I represent Vishakhapatnam as the commissioner of the corporation. And Vishakhapatnam was one of those cities selected among the first 20 cities for the smart cities mission in the government of India. So I think with these opening remarks, I'll let Enogh speak. Yeah.
Thank you, Enogh.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Good morning, everyone. It's really delightful to be here in this fantastic setting. I'm Enogh Ebong from the U.S. Trade and Development Agency. My perspective is both representing the agency and frankly growing up in another emerging economy in Nigeria, where I grew up in Lagos, a city at the time that I was born of 1.5 million. A few years ago, surpassed Cairo as the largest metropolis in Africa, and by 2050 is scheduled to have grown by another, double or triple that. And so with this comes infrastructure questions and issues that face not only cities in emerging economies, but cities, frankly, everywhere. And the question is, how do you build infrastructure to address those needs and adjustments and changes? So the U.S. Trade and Development Agency is focused at the early project preparation for infrastructure projects. We do this because that critical point in time is going to be where you are planning. It's where you are making sure that your project is bankable or financeable. And so that is the focus of the agency, but we do it in a sort of win-win situation. And this is where the example of our work in Vishakhapatnam is going to be very, very important. We do it in a way that is going to allow the projects to benefit from the US private sector capacity in innovative solutions that can respond to the challenges that arise. And so it is a combination of bringing together, as the role of the agency, US private sector ingenuity to the infrastructure challenges that arise. Why smart cities is an interesting place to be doing this is that it calls together all of the sectors that we have worked in for many years. It could be transportation, it could be ICT, communications, and energy. And so it is a perfect crucible, if you will, for bringing together all of the critical elements that will ensure that a city is smarter and that the population is served in a way that benefits everyone all the way around. I'll leave it there and hopefully be able to develop more in the questions and answer period.
Very good, thank you. And I'd like to start first with Hari. Having come from the furthest and being one of these cities, and India has more than 50 cities with more than 1 million people in them, Vishakhapatnam is seen as one of the icons of what the Smart Cities mission is doing. It's been almost 2 years since that program has been running. What does this mean for Vizag? What does a smart city look like? What initiatives are you able to take on now that were otherwise impossible before this mission? Give us a sense of why a citizen of Vizag or Vishakhapatnam should be excited right now about the development of their city.
Basically, I would like to, cite one example as to how the Smart Cities mission has helped the city of Vishakhapatnam. In the year 2014, the city of Vishakhapatnam was hit by a cyclone called Hudud. So we had wind speeds up to 250, 300 kilometers. The entire city was devastated. And power lines were down for 15 days. People were struggling to get essential commodities and all of that. I think Vishakhapatnam is one of those gifted cities that this smart city mission came as a, boon to that city. One of the critical elements in the smart cities mission is to ensure that citizens participate effectively in the smart city. So when the citizens were asked, what do they think is the most important element that the corporation or the city government needs to focus on, and everybody immediately, the most number of respondents immediately said, focus on disaster management. Unlike cities in the developed country, India, everybody being aware, is a developing country. We do not look at a 24/7 control room. We do not look at a 24/7 disaster management principle. Yes, we have improved over the years. But today, under the Smart Cities mission, Vishakhapatnam is looking at developing a world-class command and control center. Like the 911 centers available in the cities in US. So one disaster management center that will be immediately available for the citizens, where they can reach out in terms of any disaster, any event happening. So that, this Smart Cities mission was something that came as a boon for the city of Vishakhapatnam. And basically the Smart City mission caters to developing a model area with 100% infrastructure that a city is supposed to have. So as Enogh was speaking, the infrastructure a city requires is what that matters the most. So we have now taken up a 1,600 acre area where we are going to focus on providing world-class core infrastructure, be it drinking water, be it lighting, be it the best roads and the best underground sewerage network and all of that. So I think this focused development will, percolate to the other parts of the city, make that the standard of development for the other parts of the city. And I think Vizag, being the first set of cities to start the development, has made a huge leap forward compared to the other cities. We have put in place the contractor for the command and control center and we hope to have it up and running in the next 9 months. So that's it, as of now, the status for the smart city.
Excellent. We'll come back to some more questions about what that looks like. Vinay, you've spent a lot of time back and forth between India on the Smart Cities programs. There's been private sector involvement with Bloomberg. There's been public sector involvement across the board from the US government, which we'll also talk to Enogh about. But where are the opportunities as a private sector player from outside of the world to be part of what seems to be a extremely focused, exciting initiative to help build cities of the future in India? What kind of advice, how do you begin to engage in smart cities in India today?
Sure. Yeah, that's a great question. I think, what we've done with this mission itself is really advised the U.S. companies to work together, build consortiums, and work with the cities. Obviously, there's a lot of U.S. companies engaged with these 100 or 100 plus cities that are going after the money from the central governments, and their advisors many of them happen to be U.S. companies, so that's one avenue. But really, it's about thinking more about some of these smaller companies coming in, creating an ecosystem. So if you're a large company already operating in India, who are your supply chain? What's your supply chain? What are they doing with various technologies that can potentially help some of these cities? It's really, my whole vision or thoughts around smart cities is this ecosystem. And the US companies need to think broadly, not just going out and pitching their wares, but really what do those cities need? And as Enogh said correctly, the hierarchy of infrastructure needs are, mobility, energy, water. So those are the basic needs in the majority of Indian cities, if not all, first to address. So to come in, Hari's right, the command center is great. These are evolved kind of programs. So Hari and the city of Vizag, Vishakhapatnam, and others have really done great work around master planning to get to that stage. But so US companies need to take a little bit more of a holistic, longer term view to get engaged. There are various government programs, at least at Commerce, that we have. One that I want to plug here at the National Institute of Standards and Technology, Dr. Ree, who was here for a few days, he has a Global Cities Team Challenge. And this is a virtual cluster approach where private sector, academia, and governments, city governments from around the world get together to solve problems. This is another entry point for private sector to kind of engage and understand, and specifically India could take advantage of that.
And Enogh, just to add to that, your agency is driving a lot of this now, at least from a government to government, international perspective. What role is the public sector playing in creating an enabling environment, both in India and elsewhere, and how do you see that evolving over the coming years?
Thank you. I do think that the role of the government, and particularly, for example, of an agency like ours, is very much in a facilitative, convening kind of role. So I see it as in sort of two broad buckets. Where we're concerned, the planning is very important. And then there's also the right environment to be able to engender and encourage the right results. So in terms of the planning, being able to, from the agencies, our agency's perspective, focus on, as we have working with Hari and the city of Vizag, that master planning, which is critical. And to Vinay's point also, working with consortia of US companies. In fact, our involvement in the Vizag projects came as a result of the city itself working with the companies to say, you all, let's bid to see who will come forward and go and approach USTDA with us to be able to work on this activity. So I do think that an agency like ours that focuses on that early part where we're helping to delimit risk in a way, because we are, going where others are perhaps in the beginning a little reluctant to do, is an important element of what public sector can do. And then on the right environment, I think that, there are issues of procurement policy that are very critical in terms of making sure that your acquisitions are the right ones. So I think that government has a role to play in that. And I also think that government can, or agencies can also encourage the partnerships that are going to work to be able to move projects forward. So I think that this will continue to move forward in the future, particularly again in the area of infrastructure where the risks are high. And that it's important to have a pathway in. So that's where I would leave that.
So Hari, I'd like to come back to you. Given that Vishakhapatnam has been an early recipient of this type of cooperation. And now that you're in full swing as commissioner, what does the next few years look like for you? What's not working where you think that there is more opportunity or needed opportunity to be able to help you deliver on a smart cities agenda as part of the mission that more importantly helps with what citizens are looking for? Let you add a little bit of color to that.
To be, the smart cities mission basically speaks of, providing core infrastructure to the people. And for any citizen in any city, they are going to be satisfied when you are able to provide them with basic infrastructure. In India, see, it is estimated in the next decade or the next 2 decades, India will require close to $200 billion of investment in the infrastructure in the urban sector alone. So looking at Vishakhapatnam, see, for example, a study to understand the stormwater drainage infrastructure required, the investment required in the stormwater drainage system, the network for Vishakhapatnam, is pegged at around $500 million immediately. So maybe that relates only to stormwater. So the amount of money, the amount of investment required to meet the basic infrastructure that the people require to live the quality of life defined by, say, the Sustainable Development Goals or the Millennium Development Goals itself runs into hundreds of billions of dollars. So per se today, the governments cannot generate that much money. So they look at various methods of procurement, they look at various methods of bringing in investment, and that is one good thing about Smart Cities mission. They encourage public-private partnership, they encourage different methods of procurement to ensure that we are able to provide the best standard of living for the people living in Vishakhapatnam or any smart city for that matter. So, and the cooperation with US, I think we are going to be talking in the afternoon about that in detail. So I will not want to focus much on that in this session. So I would like to focus on the smart cities mission of the government of India per se. So that's it.
Vinay, perhaps this adds some color, and I don't mean to encroach on the afternoon session a little bit, but we'll make sure that we leave enough that everybody and then some would like to come to that as well. But on the opportunity as infrastructure de-risking, as Enogh brought up as well, what kinds of examples have you seen over the last few years where they're successful, replicable, potentially an opportunity to be able to help make pieces of that mission come to life? Because it sounds great, right? I mean, it sounds like from afar the Smart Cities mission is doing well, all these cities are growing well, but it doesn't take a long visit to India to recognize that there's still a long way to go to get there, despite the stuff that's in play. From a long view that you brought up earlier, what's working? And how do you take what's working and double down on it?
Yeah, good point. I'll first just to complement some of Enogh's points on the government role. I do want to say that it's critical where government can play in terms of standards and policies. So setting some of those standards, whether it's the Internet of Things or policies to kind of break down walls, to come to your point, Anand, on financing, right? So in India specifically, I would say I haven't seen a replicable model. I don't think you can just replicate models from around the world and put it on a city, but there are a few successes, and I'll talk about that from a financing viewpoint, in that in India you have special purpose vehicles that were created to get the central government money to pair with state money, $15 million a year per city or something of that nature. But my question would be, why was it even needed that you needed a special purpose vehicle in the first place? So obviously something wasn't working that you could just, transfer the money. But it seems to actually have taken hold, and so my point around that, something that could be replicable, that the US government did, Commerce, Treasury, USTDA, et cetera, in Pune, in Maharashtra, is they did a pilot on municipal bonds, municipal bond financing. India's had them for decades, 15, 20 years, but not really utilized them. Obviously, this is is the galvanizing force. Smart cities, the cities need some kind of vehicle. I think from what I've just heard in the last few days, I think Vishakhapatnam is about to either do their own pilot or actually take some lessons learned from the Pune example. So things of that nature I would see as replicable are things around the financing space. But again, it's the incubators, the accelerators that you're seeing, whether it's in places of Los Angeles to Lagos. I mean, that's where everyone is really going, and how do you create a small hub of the right partners to then pair with the city government officials or state government officials, as India would require both, to work. Again, it just boils down to that kind of ecosystem, building that.
And so I know I'd like to build from that for a minute. There are certainly things that are replicable, maybe not on the financing side and other, but as you begin to think of India being an early example, but the rest of the world still being places where cities are developing very quickly, how do you choose as your agency what areas to focus on, where you see shared lessons that can be adapted, and again, what kinds of opportunities does that open up for those that are looking at smart cities around the world as an opportunity to contribute, to be partnering, to be in PPPs through a channel that seems to be laying, or the foundation seems to be being laid by the work that's being done that we're speaking of now?
No, absolutely. And just to add to a very obvious point too, with respect to government ability to help to spur things, is that seeding that we've seen, not only with the Smart Cities Challenge, for example, in India, but also here too with Department of Transportation's work and the Smart Cities Challenge, which we've heard from here in the conference as well. So that's on the role itself. With respect to opportunities and what we've seen from our 30 years of doing this kind of work, I think what's the most positive thing and very, very good to see is that this work has been going on for many, many years. In particular silos, perhaps. For example, we've worked for over 30 years in India. We had a very strong partnership with one of the power companies there, Tata Power, who has been looking to modernize and implement modernization of smart grids. And so, that kind of work has been ongoing. They've implemented changes through sort of, again, good planning and been able to reduce losses in a very substantial way for 7 million people across Delhi. So there are elements of this work already happening, which is a good thing. And now with the sort of smart cities focus, the integration of this kind of activity is happening, and I think that India actually is the sort of very strong example of it. So that, in fact, in terms of our portfolio of countries, because we work in emerging countries, we often look to India and provide India as the example. I think that the elements that are replicable, as Vinay has said, go to the financing, go to those that are willing to expand the standards and the policies to encourage investment, and also the willingness to partner from the U.S. sides going in, the importance of partnering with your various, parties and project sponsors that are building the various infrastructure projects. So I think that there is a lot to be learned. I think that India is in the forefront of it, and that really stands out, and why we've been focused there, and demonstrating it as a country to learn from.
What parts of the world come next?
So we're doing work now in places like Turkey, for example, in this area. I think that in Vietnam and other parts of Southeast Asia that there is a strong focus. We are working in these various sectors in Africa as well. And in South Africa, for example, in the ICT field, you see the beginnings. It's interesting because the work might start in a different sector, but it's going to pull in from the others. So that, for example, we have been working for a long time with the city of Cape Town in South Africa with respect to developing their sort of connectedness. And I really can see that that is going to mushroom out. And I think that work that we're doing in smart grids and solar in the energy sector in Kenya and in Nigeria, likewise, is going to, again, perhaps be the crucible or the catalyst for more development in the area. So I would look at, it's truly the emerging, the fast-growing economies, both in Africa and in other countries in Asia as well, and watch Turkey as well.
Fabulous. Hari, to come back to you, you have a very unique perch in, at some level, from my experience in India, that, a commissioner is a role that's appointed by the state, but the city is an elected government. There's a real role. There's a lot of capability of getting things done in cities that are in the hands of a commissioner like you and the role you have. How do you juggle between very long-term sort of thinking around smart cities as a mission, around all of this government-to-government work, priorities that are very clear on what's needed to deliver in a focused area services for citizens, and what I guess in the political realm, citizens think they want, right? So what's the decision-making process of where to focus a limited amount of time and energy and resources in order to get there? And maybe another way of asking that is there a measure of success for you at the end of a term as commissioner, or maybe 5 years out after you're gone, of what would make you proud of where Vishakhapatnam reaches, smart or not, but as a city?
Actually, Anand, the smart cities mission is very clear. It's a very defined mission. It's a mission for 5 years. It has set goals, and a city is selected based on its participation in a challenge and the project it submits, And answering a part of your question with regard to satisfying the citizens of the city, there is one thing unique about the smart cities mission in comparison to all the previous missions and the previous projects or the various initiatives taken by the government of India or the government of Andhra Pradesh. The unique feature of this smart cities mission is that it is important to have citizen participation in defining the goals of this project. So Vishakhapatnam is one of those fortunate cities where we have a very, very proactive citizen participation. And in the project preparation stage and in the proposal stage, the citizens of Vishakhapatnam have participated, and the government and the local government has facilitated citizen participation in various ways. As I told you, India is still a developing country, unlike the developed countries where they reach out through the social media, through the smartphones, various networks. You have to be a bit more innovative to reach out to people in cities like Vishakhapatnam. In Vishakhapatnam, we could reach out to 500,000 people. That is 5 lakh people, 500,000 people we reached out to. This was done through various means. One, involving people through the social media, Facebook, Twitter, sending emails, sending SMS, and all of that. We put up kiosks in malls, in market areas. We visited schools, we visited colleges, we visited universities. We could call meetings of the resident welfare associations, various stakeholders, NGOs, social sector people. So with all these forums involving both technology and as well as deploying the regular ways of mobilization, we could reach out to people. And while answering your first question, the second question I told you, the priority of the people was to ensure that we have a good disaster management mechanism. And that is why we today are looking forward to setting up a command and control center. So the priority we gave and defining our vision for the city of Vishakhapatnam itself was based on the citizens' participation. They wanted to have an effective disaster management system and also to develop a healthy city. So our vision has been in tune with what the citizens wanted. Coming to the vision for Vishakhapatnam. See, we today, the state government of Andhra Pradesh is working on a Vision 2029 program. So the state has a vision of Vision 2029, which has been broken down into two parts of 2022 and 2029. Like the state, the city of Vishakhapatnam is also being asked to define the vision it would have for 2029. So I would state that for any citizen, and I keep repeating that in every forum, be it a smart city forum, be it a regular forum, be it any other forum, that to ensure that a citizen is happy, that the citizens are happy, you have to cater to the core infrastructure. Giving clean drinking water, sewerage lines, 100% electricity, street lighting, clean cities, sanitation. This is what the citizens require. And if we are able to give them this best infrastructure, I think there is nothing like giving that to the citizens. And I think the future of India lies in these cities giving the citizens this core infrastructure. And the Smart Cities mission is focused at that. And I think India will be the place in future to see how urbanization goes forward. And I think Vishakhapatnam down the years will be that model city which other cities in India as well as the world we can look up to in providing this core infrastructure to its citizens.
If you can engage a quarter of your population in engagement of this form, it's better than any place in the world, I must say, democratically at that level. We are unfortunately out of time on this panel now, but we're here for the next couple of minutes and can interact in person. But before that, I'm going to hand it over to Enogh to make a plug for the afternoon session.
Thank you so much, Anand. And Hari has given you an excellent preview of what we will be discussing in depth this afternoon. 1:30, Building 92, 4th floor, where we will be hosting a workshop, very innovative in that we want the audience's participation. We will be looking at case studies. We will be looking at ways forward in the active projects that are ongoing now. So I invite you all and people that you know to come and participate this afternoon. Thank you, Anand.
Thank all of you for participating, especially Hari, who literally got off a plane this morning and made it here from India and is on his way back shortly. So I encourage you to make sure you attend that event, but if you get a chance to meet with him and or Vinay and Enogh during this event, I think there's a lot of insight and a lot of on-the-ground knowledge that may be useful. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, the next session on this stage will be at 10:15 a.m., starting promptly at 10:15 a.m., and it is on scaling smart cities. Thank you.